with a blue shirt.
My name is Peter Humphrey. I'm an intelligence analyst who often worries about worst-case scenarios. Imagine for a moment that U.S. pullout is complete or Sistani dies. The lid is off the Shia. The Shia and the Sunni resume their conflict. It gets really ugly. Kurds go, not my fight. We are out of here once and for all. Turkey now is stuck with an independent state on its border. The Kurds are clever enough to say, and by the way, we're not going to take 1 square centimeter of Turkish territory, and Kurds who feel strongly they'd like to live under Kurdish administration are welcome to come and help build the new Kurdistan. Is this something that Turkey could conceivably live with? Or is Turkey just for all time a zero-tolerance republic with respect to Kurdistan?
I'll ask perhaps Dr. Mufti to respond to this. Do you have an interesting soft...
Actually,
okay, anybody.
The Kinikilioglu might be the most, in terms of what Turkey will accept or not accept.
But in terms of soft
But
power, hard
in
power...
general, I'll say this. Lenore mentioned that there's been a long... historically, Turkey and Iran have had a long, quiescent border, and that's true. And maybe for that reason, their competition often took place in the flanks of that common border, in Iraq on one side and in Azerbaijan on the other. Iraq is of vital importance to both countries. They both have historical links in Iran. I think Turkey has greatly enhanced its position there in just the last few years after abandoning its kind of obsession about the Kurds. And so it's much better positioned now to check Iranian influence in Iraq. Whether that competition takes the form of soft power or hard power really is going to depend more on Iran, I think, than on Iran.
Dr. Martin?
I find it an interesting scenario, and when my co-edited book came out in 2004, I was in Turkey just so at the beginning of the war, and we had I gave a couple of talks, and I remember saying to my Turkish colleagues at that point that they had nothing to fear, I thought, from an autonomous or from the northern Iraq, an autonomous Kurdish area. And at that point, I could just see people were very polite, they really disagreed. But you know, it is a landlocked area. It really does, you know, even in an autonomous or independent Kurdish region or Kurdish state would need a good relationship with Turkey. The question is really how much they would, and you hinted to this in your question, what the relationship would be to the people of the region. Would they try to, form a Kurdistan? And is it possible that they would just say, come live in Kurdistan? Or would they really say, would they want to expand? Your scenario was not a worst-case scenario, of course. It doesn't include that expansion of territory, and that is where the rub would really come. After all, there are Turkish Kurds going to school now in northern Iraq. There's so much business in northern Iraq. So they both stand to and I wouldn't mind hearing what Suat has to say. I mean, the relationship is, at this point, a good relationship. There's a lot of commerce and a lot of interaction there.
The real worst case is Turkey invades, despite Kurdistan's promise not to take a square inch of Kurdistan's promise not to take a square inch of Turkey.
I think in your situation of chaos in Iraq, I don't think Turkey would want to invade. That is not how I see Kurdish foreign policy at this point. But I'm going to.
What will you accept?
Leave it to Suat.
Just briefly, I don't think at all. I agree with Lenore that the relationship with the Kurdish regional government with the north is excellent. We are the primary investor in that region. The relationship with the leadership is rather excellent. And although I do not at all predict a breakup of Iraq whatsoever, but let's hypothetically think that there would be chaos in Iraq. I still don't think. I actually think that the Kurdish region in the north would still serve as an important buffer zone between the rest of Iraq. But as I said, I do not think it is plausible at this point to talk of a breakup of Iraq, although some leadership in this country a number of years ago were having very elaborate scenarios about that. Luckily, it hasn't happened, and I hope it will not happen.
In the middle, the lady with the purple blazer.
Diane Perlman, School of Conflict Analysis and Resolution at George Mason. And I'm also collaborating with Johan Ghattas on a book on reconciliation. Is that a question for Ambassador Liel? And the whole issue about apology. And I've done some writing about psychology of apology, and it seems to come up a lot as a, say, psychological archetypal requirement for healing or resolving conflict. So it seems like it could be psychologically required, but it's politically problematic. I think it's wired up in the way that we're designed to heal from this. So could you explain the difference in your thinking between expressing sorrow and apology, or political implications, or what that means, and why would it be so terrible to apologize?
First, I don't think an apology will solve the bilateral crisis. The bilateral crisis started with Operation Cast Creek 2.5 years ago, and the Mavi Marmara incident was a year ago. We were already in the middle of the crisis, and the Mavi Marmara was an outcome of this crisis. So an apology can remove the Mavi Marmara incident, but not the crisis, because the crisis is there mostly because of the freeze in the peace process and between us and the Palestinians, and I don't see a change there. Regarding an apology, as I see it, at least with this coalition that we are having at the moment, there is no chance for an Israeli apology. And on top of the issue that the Israelis have seen the Marmara as a kind of attack on Israel, and what the Israeli IDF operation as a defense of our borders and so on, there are implications on what if you apologize, soldiers can be brought to court, and there are legal issues there. But we have now a foreign policy of national honor. It's unthinkable that we will apologize as long as Lieberman is our foreign minister. And so we are stuck on this issue, I think.
Unfortunately, I know there are lots of hands still being raised, but I'm being told we have to wrap up. Perhaps I could ask the panelists to just give a very brief 30-second concluding statement. Where will Turkey be in 5 years as a regional power? Very briefly.
I think in 5 years we will probably still be continuing either the impact of what has started as the Arab Spring. In some countries it will probably have concluded with more predictable and transparent transition regimes, maybe even something resembling democracy. In some countries it probably won't. In some countries probably will see more conflict. But eventually we will probably enter into a period where Turkish soft power and the aspiration that Turkey provides to millions of citizens in the region will continue and strengthen. And we will probably see the United States and our European allies hopefully work more closely and more dependent on Turkish diplomacy and assistance in the region.
Right. Ambassador Alon?
Yeah, unfortunately, although we have ongoing diplomatic relations between Israel and Turkey almost since Israel was founded, as I said, if things will not dramatically change in the region, in the Arab-Israeli conflict, I don't see a Turkish embassy in Tel Aviv in 5 years.